All right, Patrick, the floor is yours on session 6, the final class of Prepare West Adams on situational awareness and neighborhood security.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
We can.
All right. So this session is going to be on neighborhood situational awareness and security. I gave this presentation back in December, I believe, but this is important for the neighborhood team program because it is really critical to understand what the expectations are after disaster and how you can work with your neighbors to make sure that you survive better than possibly your surrounding communities that are not as prepared. The most important thing to realize is that in all likelihood, 99.9% of us, we will survive the earthquake. There will be a lot of people who won't, but chances are we will. And we have to base all of our expectations, all of our preparedness on this one assumption that we will survive. However, we also need to understand what that means for the rest of the neighborhood, the rest of the community, the rest of the city, the rest of the county, the rest of this region. City and county resources will immediately be overwhelmed. I think it was 5 minutes after the Northridge quake, all LAFD resources were deployed throughout the city. Within a few minutes after the Ridgecrest quake, all of their 911 call center capacity was overwhelmed and all of their fire department resources were deployed. Most of the firefighters and police in the city of Los Angeles don't actually live in the city of Los Angeles. We have 3,000 firefighters who work for LAFD, sworn firefighters. There's only 1,000 firefighters on shift at any time. They're split over 3 different shifts. So if they expect that we're going to have 3,000 firefighters come in right after the big one occurs, chances are they're not. And we're going to be stuck with what we have on duty, that 1,000, those 1,000 firefighters. Maybe we'll get another 1,000 coming in, but chances are they won't even be able to make it in. Same thing with LAPD. So the city is just not going to have the resources that we require in order to really address the magnitude of the damage that we expect to happen after a major earthquake. We will expect that mutual aid resources will be coming from Northern California or from out of state. What happens in California is you actually have an agreement where if the southern part of the state is impacted, the north is going to come down and support us. And likewise, if the north is impacted, Southern California is going to go up and support Northern California. We'll also get resources from Nevada, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, and chances are Israel, Australia, other countries will be sending resources after we get the big one, but that's not going to be for days, if not weeks after. So we really will be on our own for the first several days at minimum. And unfortunately, our market system works on what's called a just-in-time business model. They have exactly the number of items, food, water, milk, dry goods that they expect to sell before they're restocked on delivery. And they get restocked every couple of days, at minimum once a week. So they don't have a warehouse in back where they're going to be able to pull from when they deplete what's on the shelf. What's on the shelf is what they have. And as soon as they sell that, they expect to get restocked. The problem is that if the roads are damaged and the power's out, restocking is not going to happen. And what will happen is everyone will go to the market right after that earthquake and buy what they can. For those of you who remember a year ago, right after COVID started, water, toilet paper, other dry goods, the market was out. They were out and they couldn't restock fast enough, even with their system. So we expect this to happen. We expect the shelves are going to be empty. If you look at Florida, you look at any hurricane hit areas, as soon as they announce that there's going to be a hurricane coming, the markets, the warehouse stores are all empty because everybody goes out and buys stuff. And these are people who live through this annually. They expect this to happen, but they're not prepared. We don't expect an earthquake to happen. And so everyone is going to be desperate. They're going to try and get stuff, and there's simply not going to be stuff on the shelves. Most people are going to have about 3 to 7 days worth of supplies in their home. And around day 5, I expect things to get very interesting as people start running out of food and water, whatever they have in their shelves, they'll deplete it and not be able to restock. So things will get very interesting, and we have to prepare for that. Single family home neighborhoods are not going to get much support from the city for weeks. That's just the reality of it. We are really going to be on our own. We're going to have to rely on our neighbors and ourselves. What we do to prepare before the earthquake and what our neighbors do to prepare before the earthquake, that is what we will have after the earthquake. There's not going to be going to the market. There's not going to be going to Home Depot, Costco. It is earthquake happens, we're on our own with what we have. And that's why it's important to prepare ahead of time and not think, oh, I'll just go to the market and get it when I need it. Same thing with injuries. If you're injured, you have a minor injury, you don't need to go to the hospital, you need to take care of it now because it could get worse and you don't want to end up having to go to the hospital with everyone who has been critically injured. Everyone should have, and this isn't a big ask, and even more difficult in apartment buildings, but everyone should have 3 to 4 weeks worth of shelf-stable food and water. You anticipate a gallon per day per person and pet. That's approximately 21 to 30 gallons per person per pet in your home. That's a lot of water to store. So we have to get creative in how we store things and where we store them. Apartment buildings have a major issue with space, not being able to store that kind of stockpile. So I don't have a good answer for them, but for single family homes, it's something to think about ahead of time and start preparing now. Don't go out and buy everything now, but you want to have this over time and make sure that you're rotating your stock frequently. Also have a 1 month's reserve of any prescription. And typically you can go to your pharmacy and ask for that. Depending on your prescription plan, they do have some sort of allowance for emergency supply or traveling supply, and you can get an extra month of whatever prescriptions you have just to have on hand. And again, make sure you rotate that in and out of your supply so you don't have it sitting there for years on end and it expires. Propane barbecues or butane camping stoves are great options for being able to heat food and water. We know the natural gas lines are particularly vulnerable, and chances are you will not have natural gas, and you certainly will not have electricity right after the earthquake. So having those kinds of camping or barbecue supplies will be able to allow you to cook your food when you need it. Also, it gets dark at night without electricity, and very rarely do we get to see this, but when it does happen, it is startling how dark it is out there. So every member of your household should have a flashlight with extra batteries. Make sure you store those batteries outside the flashlight. If you leave batteries in the flashlight for months, if not years on end, they will corrode and actually damage the flashlight and be useless. Every household, you should have small denomination bills, money, because credit cards are not going to work. If you need to go buy something and there's no power, having cash on hand, small bills, ones, fives, tens, that's how you're going to do transactions. If you only have 20s and $100 bills and you're in desperate need of water, that bottle of water is going to cost you $100. It's going to have whatever, they're not going to make change just to accommodate you. So make sure you have, and I don't know how much money to recommend. It's more of a personal thing, but a couple $100 at the very least, if you can afford to do so, just have it on hand and stored safely. Everyone should have a good size first aid kit. There will be injuries right after the earthquake, and if you can have those basic first aid supplies and know how to use them, you're going to do more good for yourself and your family than hoping that someone else has first aid training. Additionally, it is important to know that you do need to get some sort of training. Most of us, unfortunately, they don't teach first aid in high school anymore. And it's a tragedy, really. But if you can take a basic first aid class, that's a good start. Learn how to do basic bandaging and cleaning of injuries. Everyone should have a FRS or ham radio or some way to communicate. And this should be a neighborhood decision on on how you're going to communicate, what channels you're going to be on. Have this pre-planned out ahead of time, because it's not time to learn how to use the radio and who to communicate with after the earthquake. It's all about the preparation ahead of time, making sure that you have the plans, who you know. Are you going to be able to talk to your next door neighbors on the radio? And when you turn it on and you reach out to someone who's out there, who are you going to be able to communicate with? Additional things to have, contractor sized trash bags, kitty litter. Even if you don't have cats, kitty litter is very useful for mopping up spills. If you need to create an improvised toilet, kitty litter is the perfect thing for that. Bleach for cleaning, sanitizing, even purifying water. And waterless soap is a great idea, so you don't have to burn your water on washing. Large trash cans and 5-gallon buckets with tight fitting lids are other good things to have, just so that you can dispose of things. The 5-gallon buckets, again, back to that improvised toilet. And the tight fitting lid, of course, to make sure that you don't have to smell it after. You really do want to have a plan with your family. Plan on where to meet outside the home. If you're at work, your kids are at school, and you somehow get back, or you need to meet after the earthquake, where are you going to meet? If the house is collapsed, have someplace outside the home that you're going to meet, a designated area that everybody knows to go to. It could be not safe. There could be gas leak in the area or something, and they've cordoned it off so you can't even get back to your home. So have that plan ahead of time and make sure everybody in your household knows about this. Another good thing to do is practice camping in the woods for a weekend or a week even. If you can camp, if you can go a week in the woods without power, you're in a lot better shape knowing that you can survive this earthquake, again, without power, without gas, without refrigeration, than the people who are going to try and figure this out right after that. Here's where we start to get to the crux of this. Your neighborhood, your block is going to have to work together. If you want to do things on your own and you think, I'm a survivalist, I can survive on my own without my neighbors, without my family, without anybody, I'm just going to go off and do my own thing, it really is a liability, because we're stronger together. And Dr. Lucy Jones says that the communities that prepare together will survive together. And that really is true. We're all stronger together. We're all stronger if we plan together, prepare together, and practice together. The reason for that is it's really difficult to get everything right. Even if you're very good at planning, you're going to miss things. You're going to forget things. You're going to not anticipate things. And if you don't have something, there's no way to get it after it. But since everybody's going to miss something different, if we all plan and we have agreements, we know our neighbors, we plan to work together. If I don't have something, hopefully my neighbor does. And what they don't have, hopefully I do, and we can share resources. It really is an unrealistic dream to think we can just survive this on our own. Unless, of course, you've done that. If you're a survivalist and you've lived in the woods for a year at a time, okay, more power to you. But most of us have not, and most of us are not capable of doing that. Also anticipate that the people who are getting desperate at day 5 and they want your stuff, they're patient. They know that you have it, and you don't necessarily know that they're there watching you. So you need to really rely on your neighbors to be able to watch your back while you sleep, and vice versa. And make sure that anticipate, hopefully, if something is happening to you, that your neighbor will help, and vice versa. If something is happening to your neighbor, you're willing to step in and help. I covered a lot of this already. There's only so much that we can have. Some people have more space in their home. Some people will be able to have more than 1 gallon per person per day. And if you already talk to your neighbor about this and say, hey, I have a smaller home, you have this larger lot, is there any way I can give you extra water to store for me? They might be willing to do that. Larger families also will have need to store more, but they're likely to burn through their resources faster. So just anticipate that based on the size of your family, the size of your home, a lot of these calculations go in, and all bets are really off once it actually happens. One thing to expect to do is trade and barter. Again, I mentioned this. If I've got extra, rice, and my neighbor has extra water, and I'm running low on water and they're running low on food, we can trade. I need some water, here's some rice, and we're able to survive this together. Not everybody's going to have a generator, but everyone's going to have a need for power. So the people who are running their generators during the day and have them, they're providing extra power that they don't necessarily use. And it's really a waste of gas. So if we can coordinate and say, okay, I'm going to run my generator during the day. Susie, 2 doors down, is going to run her generator during tomorrow. And then Bob, 3 doors down, is going to run his generator 2 days from now. I'm going to bring my cell phone over tomorrow to Susie's, and then to Bob's the next day. And Susie and Bob are going to bring their cell phones over to charge off my generator today. It helps each other out, so we're not overburning resources and hoarding them and then burning through them ourselves, but we're sharing those resources. That way we can last longer. And that's the same thing with the barbecue. Without refrigeration, the food in our refrigerators are going to go bad very quickly. The food in our freezers will go bad shortly after that. So we're going to have to cook what we have and have a block party. Get everybody together, bring out their barbecues, cook what you have, because cooked food lasts longer than raw food does. So you want to cook everything in your refrigerator now, just so that it'll last longer. Probably tomorrow or the next day, you're going to cook what you have in your freezer. And if we expect the power outage to last for 7 days, that food in your refrigerator is not going to last that long. When you're stocking up on food, a lot of people will have a lot of the same types of food in bulk. There's not going to be a lot of variety. Several days into this, you're going to get tired of what you have. But every household is going to have different stock of different food. So expect to be able to trade with your neighbors and say, hey, I've got extra corn, you've got extra rice, someone has extra beans, can we trade a little bit and give a little bit of variety to our menu as we survive together until everything starts to return to normal. It's really critical that we plan before the disaster and not after. And I can't say this enough. When I talk to people at information booths, so many times I ask them if they're prepared, and their response is, no, but I'm just going to come to your home. And that real lack of forethought, they're the ones who are going to be asking everybody to help them. And it is not conducive to surviving. On the other hand, we don't want our neighbors to become desperate either. So anticipate, but talk to your neighbors about this ahead of time. Start to plan, start to have an idea of what it's going to look like and how the block is going to survive together, and share resources ahead of time. Who has what, who has extra of what, and who, that way you know what you're going to be trading for and with. Also, skills and abilities training. If I know that Susie's a nurse, and a retired nurse, and Bob is a general contractor, I know that they have certain skills that I may need. And I happen to be, well, I work in IT, so I don't think anyone's going to need their computers repaired when there's no power, but hopefully I can contribute some sort of resource and skill to them. And I might be part of that vulnerability category. But also you need to know who is latchkey kids, who is dependent on oxygen, who's wheelchair bound. Those are the people you're going to have to check on first, because they're not going to be able to necessarily help themselves, but they can provide help in other ways. They can, someone who's wheelchair bound, maybe they're going to be able to take care of the kids who are younger while the adults are out surveying the area. So everyone has value, but we do have strengths and vulnerabilities that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed ahead of time. They need to be understood ahead of time. Again, after the earthquake is not the time to figure this out. Be very careful about assigning roles. A lot of times people say, okay, Bob is going to be the IC and Susie is going to be logistics. Well, what happens if Bob is at work 3 hours away and Susie's on vacation? If you don't have a backup for these roles, it becomes very problematic when you actually need them to function. So if you are going to assign roles, make sure you have a primary, secondary, and tertiary for each role. The saying is 2 is 1, 1 is none. So have that planned out ahead of time, or what you can do is cross train. If everybody is prepared to take over a role, then somebody can step up into that function if the primary is not there. And that's the preferred way of doing things. Last week, we talked about map your neighborhood, having this pre-planning ahead of time. You really want to identify the local gathering areas and make sure everyone is on the same page. Okay, after the earthquake, everybody goes here, meets up. We check in, make sure everybody's safe. Anyone who hasn't shown up that we know isn't here, but is typically here during the day, let's go check on them and see if they're okay, if they need help. Don't do this in the middle of the street where there's cars. Have it off, but also be aware of the surroundings. Maybe if it's, next to a large transformer, maybe that's not the best place for it. Or in someone's home is also maybe not the best place for it in case the house collapses. There's a lot of places, and every neighborhood's going to be unique. So we do need to look at what you have in your neighborhood, and we can help you out getting the design right. After that earthquake, make sure you have a response plan. You're going to create search teams just to make sure that everyone's accounted for, see who needs help. You're going to have the ability to take care of your elderly, your latchkey kids, the people who have certain disabilities or mobility challenges. Oxygen, a lot of these oxygen systems do require power, and some of these people don't have backup generators. So you need to know, okay, well, we need to move this person to this place where there's going to be a backup generator so that their CPAP machine or their oxygen system is going to work correctly. Then you're going to create damage assessment teams. These teams are going to go door to door, and they're going to search for any structural damage, fire, gas leaks. Fire department's not going to be able to do this for days. Even if you call 911, chances are it's going to ring busy, and then you're not going to be able to get help. So it's going to be on us to do these functions. One of the big things is if there's a gas leak, you smell, see, or hear gas, turn off the gas. That is going to prevent a fire. If you leave that gas unchecked, that gas leak unchecked, eventually something is going to set it off, and there's going to be an explosion and a fire that you can't control at that point because we don't have the training and resources to take care of a big fire. And if everybody has the help okay signs up and everyone's okay, but you see a couple help signs, you know where to target, where to go looking for where you need to provide the assistance. Make sure that nobody goes anywhere alone. You're always in pairs or you're always in teams. And stick with that person. Even if you have to go to the restroom, take your partner with you. They don't have to go in the restroom with you, but they need to be within earshot, because if something happens to you, they're the only way you're going to get help, and vice versa. This plan needs to be written down and shared with your neighbors and updated regularly. You should have a map of your block with the key locations. This is going to be the neighborhood gathering site. This is going to be the medical care center. This is going to be where the child care center is and the elderly care center. Who has generators, who has chainsaws, who has barbecues. That maybe doesn't need this information doesn't need to leave your block, and shouldn't. This should be private to just your group. But an understanding of who has what and who has what skills is critical to really understanding how we're going to function after this earthquake. Understand that there will be certain people with skills who will not be there, who will get called into work, who will go and help others. And those are going to be doctors, nurses, firefighters, EMTs. That's why I mentioned a retired nurse earlier. She still has the skills, but she's not necessarily going to have to call into work and drive in and leave the neighborhood. Also, the team leader concept is really important because democracy doesn't work under duress. If there's things going on and you have to wait for everybody to vote and decide, okay, together we're going to decide this, and it's a time sensitive issue, you really want people in charge who are trusted, who are skilled and trained, but have the confidence to be able to say, okay, we need to make a decision now. This is what the decision is going to be. We're going to move forward on it. After that earthquake occurs, you want everybody to be able to meet up daily, just to check in with each other. We might be taking care of our homes, but at 6 o'clock every night, we're going to meet up and see how everybody's doing, see how they're doing in supplies, if anybody needs anything, if anyone is running short of anything, if anyone has injuries and they're not getting better. These are the kinds of information we need to share. Set up that daycare, establish that, because there will be kids, and if you're taking care of your kids, you can't really help your neighbors out. They may be more of a distraction than anything else. So if you have some elderly people who are that live alone, sometimes they're more willing to take care of kids and keep them company, and the kids provide that comfort care to the elderly as well, who are really just as scared as the kids are sometimes. Always have that medical care center. If you have medically trained people in the block, they're going to be vital, because some injuries need to be monitored. You might not be worth taking them to the hospital, but at the very least, you don't want them to get worse. And so they need to be checked in. Their bandages need to be cleaned and reapplied every so often. And I bring this up. I mentioned earlier that some people are not going to be prepared. Well, we're not necessarily running a charity here, but we do want to be inclusive. So people should, if they need stuff, be willing to work for it. Oh, I didn't get prepared, but I'm available to do whatever you need me to do in exchange for, some food and water. I'll help clean up. I'll fix some stuff. I'll even cook it for the community. Those are the kinds of things that they can barter in exchange, so that they don't feel like they're freeloading, and vice versa. You don't feel like people are taking advantage of you because they didn't get prepared. I mentioned before, most people are only going to have 3 to 7 days worth of food and water in their homes. Day 5, things will get very interesting, and people will become desperate. If you don't have food and water and you haven't had it for several days, you will start to become very desperate. Desperate people are unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do. They may get violent. They may go out and decide that they're going to take stuff from other people who have too much, in their opinion. And so these are the kinds of people that we don't want our neighbors to become. So if we can make sure that our block is surviving together and everyone is taken care of, everybody has what they need, then our people don't become desperate. At the same time, we need to be aware that there might be people who are desperate in other blocks that are going to start looking towards us because we're better prepared. So there's generally 3 types of crime: crime of opportunity, crime of desperation, and irrational crime. And it's important to know the differences between them. Crimes of opportunity, they're predictable. You can anticipate, if you have a laptop left in your car out in the open, someone will eventually break the window and take that laptop. Just because they're walking by, they see it and they have nothing to lose. And it's easy for them. They're going to smash the window, grab the laptop, and they'll be out of there before anybody says anything, sees anything, before anybody can even respond to that car alarm. It's easy for them. But these people, they're not looking for a fight. They don't want to get into a confrontation. If they're looking around, peeking into cars, and they get spotted and somebody calls out at them, they're probably going to run away. They're not going to want to get arrested. They're not going to want to get into a fight with a neighbor. And so they're less likely to risk personal injury for themselves, but that also means they're less likely to severely hurt other people in order to get that laptop out of your car. But they can also be persistent. Maybe they saw the laptop, but there's people around, and they're going to wait They're going to go out of range so that nobody's watching them. They're going to watch everybody, see when everybody lets their guard down, and then they're going to wander through, smash the window, grab the laptop, and then get out of there. They're really looking for easy targets. And this comes back to isolation is a liability. If you're on your own, you can only be awake for so long. Eventually you have to sleep. And so that's when these opportunists will strike. If you're not paying attention, you're clearly not talking to your neighbors, you're doing your own thing, or you're jogging, you have your headphones on. It's not even a disaster. You're just, running through the neighborhood, and you've got, $300 headphones on and a $1,000 iPhone. Someone's going to see you. And if you're not paying attention, you don't see them. It's very easy for them to sneak up on you, grab what you have, and take it from you. They may be willing to use force or coercion, or the threat of force. So they pull a knife on you and say, "Give me your iPad or your iPhone, give me what you have, give me your laptop." But they think that they're not going to get opposed, that you're going to quickly back down and give it up. If they see someone who is a bodybuilder or looks like they do MMA and looks like they can crush cans with their forehead, those are not the people they're going to try and steal from. But if they see a petite woman who's running alone at night and has no awareness of what's going on around her, she's not going to put up a fight, they think. And so they're going to target her instead of the bodybuilder or the martial artist. Sometimes they'll actually look for good payoffs. They'll look for something that looks like it's valuable, but sometimes they'll just think, "Oh, I'm going to take the chance, break in and grab this stuff and run away with it. And hopefully I get lucky." So you really don't know what they're looking for. And it's hard to gauge on exactly what they're going to be willing to steal. So everything is a potential target for an opportunity. But the more expensive it is, the more likelihood they're going to be waiting for it, waiting for a good chance to steal it. Crimes of desperation. These are the really dangerous ones because these are unpredictable. They believe that because they don't have something to survive and you do, it's either you or them. And they're willing to cause you harm to get it so they can survive. And they're more willing to challenge. They're more willing to get into a confrontation to get what they need to survive because they're desperate. Additionally, they're likely to lash out aggressively when confronted because they think that you're just putting up a front and saying, "Hey, who are you?" And if they challenge you back and attack you, you're not prepared for that and you're going to back down faster. But they're also willing to risk injury because, again, they need something to survive. If they haven't had food and water for 3 days, they're going to die if they don't get it. So they're more willing to cause you injury and harm to get water and food just so that they can survive because they don't care about you. They only care about themselves. Irrational crimes, these are dangerous. These are unpredictable. There are people who have mental illness and they don't think rationally. There's also crimes of jealousy, crimes of revenge, crimes of passion, crimes of just road rage. They can't be categorized in any way. It's not an act of desperation. It's not an act of opportunity. They strike out because of something that is completely unpredictable with no rational motive. And once this happens, they're not going to be deterred by confrontation. If you put up a fight and fight back against them, that is not going to make them back down, not going to make them stop. What's even more dangerous is the people who are willing to die to do commit whatever crime they need to. And there's absolutely no reason for that to happen, but it does. We see this day in, day out. We see people who suicide by cop to kill a bunch of people or commit suicide before the cops get there. And we're not even going to really discuss this because this is completely outside the realm of this. What we really need to focus on are the other two, the crimes of opportunity and the crimes of desperation. But you do need to be aware of this. Just that simple fact, there are people out there who are, for lack of a better word, crazy, and they will do anything to do for no reason at all. You need to be aware of these people. Situational awareness is critical. You always have to be aware of what's going on around you, and that includes to the left, to the right, in front of you, above, below you, and behind you. If you're going to go into a situation, you need to know what's on all 8 sides of this. What's behind it, what's in front of it, to the left, to the right, what's above it, below it, because 6 sides. Yes, 6 sides. Because you really don't want to be surprised by something. If you go into a house that looks like it's damaged and there's a giant tree above it, we've seen this happen. A tree branch breaks, crushes the front of the house and kills somebody. But you didn't notice that because you weren't looking up. Or, and we see this time and time again, people are walking around texting. And I remember seeing in La Crescenta, there was a bear wandering around. I think the bear's name was Meatball. And I love this scene. This helicopter's watching the bear, and you see this kid on his cell phone texting, and he's wandering up towards the bear, and suddenly looks up, and you see this moment on his face where he just, you see the thought going through his head, oh shit, bear. And then he turns around and runs. But if he was paying attention, he would have seen the bear before he even got close to the bear. But this is the world we live in. We are not paying attention to what's going on around us. So what you don't see will get you in trouble every single time. It's important to just be aware of what's around you at all times. Don't block out senses. If you're listening to music on your headphones, leave one headphone open, not in your ear, or you don't have the cup completely covering it, so you're not blocking out the sounds around you. Yeah, it takes you out of the music and takes you out of what you're doing, but it's important to know, hey, I hear something coming up on me. You turn around and there's some stranger, shady looking guy coming up on you, dragging a crowbar. Well, now you know he's behind you and you can do something about it, versus you find out a little too late that that person's there. It's going to get you in trouble every single time. When you're looking around, don't focus on one person, one thing. Be aware of that person, be aware of the people around you, but just keep constantly looking around. You don't have to, be frantic about it. Just, look around occasionally. Once a minute, look around, make sure nothing's changed. Stop, breathe, look around, listen, and do this frequently. That's going to keep your situational awareness up, especially when the situation is fluid, the situation is changing, and the situation is not safe. To talk about the Cooper codes of, the Cooper color codes. These are states of awareness. When you're in your home, the doors are locked, you're with your family, you feel like you're safe. You can let down your guard. Generally, nothing is going to happen. No one's going to be, trying to break into your home and stealing from you. You can let your guard down. That's when you're not paying attention. You're not looking around all the time. You're not maintaining that situational awareness. But when you're outside the home, you're in the neighborhood, regardless of the situation, even on a day-to-day basis, everyone should be in the yellow color code. That is relaxed, but alert and aware, looking around, listening. Again, occasionally look around. Don't block out your sense of hearing. Make sure that you hear strange sounds, you address them, look at them, make sure it's not something that's a danger to you. What you want to do is identify a possible threat before it approaches you. If you're aware of something 1,000 feet out, you have options. If it closes to 500 feet and looks like it's starting to get dangerous, then you're going to elevate your state of awareness. You're going to go to orange. Okay. This guy is wearing, he's wearing a hoodie. He's wearing sunglasses. It's 105 degrees out. He's wearing a trench coat. and he's dragging a crowbar behind him. Well, this is weird. This is very weird. I'm not immediately threatened by it, but I'm aware of it. And now I'm paying attention to it. I'm thinking, okay, he's coming towards me. What am I going to do? Can I run? Can I get out of there? Is it safe to retreat? Do I have some place I can go to? And if I can't, I'm in an alleyway and he's blocking the exit. Well, what do I have to do if I need to fight this person? Again, I don't know this person's a threat yet. It's weird. It's unusual. It's very strange, and potentially dangerous. Am I prepared to fight this person? Do I have car keys that I can use as something, or a pocket knife, or a 2x4 that I can leverage as some sort of weapon in case I need to? When that person is now 5 feet away from you and tells you that you're going to give them all of your money and your cell phone and your headphones and everything, or they're going to kill you, now you go into the red state where you need to decide, are you going to flee or are you going to fight? And are you going to give up your stuff, or are you going to actually engage this person first? Sometimes it's better to engage first, because if this person is making a threat, they think that that threat's enough for you to give them what you have, because they've already done a threat assessment on you. They think you're not dangerous. They think that they can steal your stuff and you're not going to put up a fight. But if you attack them first, it throws them off guard. Now they're on the defense. Or if you haven't retreated by this point, now might be the time to do so if you can safely. What we don't want to do is go into the black state, and that is where you're unprepared, you're panicking. What happens if you're in the white state of mind? You're completely oblivious to what's going on around you, and suddenly there's a person 5 feet away from you with a crowbar raised up, ready to strike you, and they say, "Give me all your stuff." Or worse, they've already hit you. Now you are completely unprepared and you have panic. And you can't think when you're panicking. You can't think of an escape route. You can't think of, what am I going to do to strike first at this person to put them on the defensive? What am I going to do to defend myself to get away from this person? That is what we want to avoid. And that's where situational awareness and maintaining that, identifying the possible threat ahead of time and becoming more and more alert as that threat approaches you and becomes more real. That's what we're trying to get everybody to start doing. Again, please, please, please don't jog in the middle of the night with both headphones on. Operational security is critical. You don't want, if you're running generators at night, everybody knows you have a generator. The neighborhood's black, but yours is the only house that's lit up like a Christmas tree. Everybody knows you have stuff. Everybody knows that you have power. It makes you a target. It's important when you're working with your neighbors to identify who you can trust and who you can't. And you want to identify this ahead of time. By getting to know your neighbors now, after the earthquake, you say, okay, Bob and Sally, I trust them implicitly. We're good friends. We know each other's kids, and we've hung out a few times. Sam, on the other hand, that guy's shady. He always has weird people over at all times of the night. We're seeing them do stuff that doesn't look legal, and he never talks to us. We know his name for some reason, but we don't think he is going to be part of this group, and we need to be careful about him because he might get desperate and decide that he's going to take what we have because he's not part of us. That's something you want to learn early on, but establish relationships. Even if you're just on a first name basis with somebody and you rarely talk to them, wave to them, say hello, you're establishing that relationship with them so that you know them at the very least. When the earthquake happens, and say, hey, Sam, this is what's going on. Everyone's lost power. We've got a generator here. If you need to come over and charge your cell phone, I'm gonna run my generator tonight. Sally's gonna run hers tomorrow. Bob's gonna run his the next day. Feel free to come over and charge your cell phone. It builds that rapport so that they think they're part of us, even if we're keeping them a little bit distant away. Don't necessarily share your in-depth plans with them. If S hits the wall, we're going to go hide at Bob's place because he's got stuff that will defend us. Maybe Sam doesn't need to know that because, well, Sam is going to go, well, everyone's at Bob's place. I'm going to rob Sally's. I'm going to rob yours. So figure that out ahead of time. But this is something that you're going to have to work on your own and with your group of your close neighbors to identify who you're going to share this information with. When you're out after the earthquake, you want to create a visible presence in your neighborhood. You want to make sure that the people who are driving from other neighborhoods that are looking for crimes of opportunity to commit, they drive through your neighborhood and they see there are people out and they see that there are people who are watching them as they drive through or walk through. And they're very friendly. They say, hi, neighbor. How are you doing today? Well, if I'm looking to commit a crime, I don't want anything to do with that. They're aware of me. I don't want them to be aware of me. So I'm going to go somewhere else. And this is why you want people out visible. Have a few people out there talking. Just wave to people. Say hello. It doesn't do you any harm to say hello to people that you don't know. If they're not wanting that attention, they will react strangely. They will possibly leave, which is great. They'll go somewhere else where it's easier. But maybe they're from another neighborhood and they're looking for neighbors to trade with. And they will come up and say hello, introduce themselves, and maybe you've made a trading partner now. So there's no harm in being friendly to people. Everyone should have their radios with them, be on the same channel and be able to communicate with each other. But you want to be careful because any radio communication can get listened to. So you want to have a code word to alert everybody to a possible problem. And everyone should agree on this code word. Everybody needs to know what this code word means. And everybody needs to know what that triggers. If you say hippopotamus on the radio, okay, there's someone who's actively making a threat in the street. Everyone hears that on the radio and they come out. And now, while one person is threatening someone else, thinking that this is going to be a crime of opportunity, suddenly 15 other people show up out of nowhere. And now things have changed for that person and they're going to want to get out of there real fast. I bring this up. People talk about weapons and making visible presence of weapons. I recommend against it. I don't want other people to know what I have. I don't want them to know that I'm armed and ready to defend myself because it makes me a target. If I have someone who's observing and watching us and they're saying, okay, this person is walking around with a baseball bat. This person's walking around with a crowbar. This person is walking around with a rifle strapped to their shoulder. This one has a firearm strapped to their thigh. I'm going to take out the person with the rifle first. I'm going to take out the person with the handgun second. And then I'm going to use that rifle and handgun on the people with the baseball bat and the crowbar. They now have a plan to take you out. But if they see people just out there with no signs of weapons, well, maybe they are armed. I don't want to find that out once I make that threat and try and take something from them. Because chances are not everybody will be armed. Not everybody will want to be armed. Not everybody should be armed. But hopefully we all have a sense of the ability to help others. And some of us are more apt to be better prepared in terms of readiness without saying so much about it. If you decide to be armed, make sure you know how to use it. If you have a firearm at home and you've never shot it before, the first time you have to point it at someone is not the time you want to learn how to use your firearm. Get training, take a training class, go practice it, and practice it regularly, because the more someone who's never used a firearm before is actually going to be more of a danger to themselves and their neighbors than someone who is experienced with a firearm. Worst thing that can happen is you point a gun at someone and they take it away from you. Now you've just given them a weapon they can use against you and everyone else. So be very careful about that. That security plan I mentioned, the readiness plan should be written down and documented, and everyone should know what to do. The security plan is going to be more of a verbal discussion between your trusted neighbors. So you're all on the same page, but you don't want that document, that written document, to get compromised, because that's your entire plan. It goes back to that operational security. So just share the information, have some discussions with them, the people that you trust. What are we going to do? What code words are we going to use? What's going to happen if that code word is used? Do we have a fallback position? If something goes wrong and we need to retreat, where are we going to go? Are we going to go to someone's house? Is there an alleyway we can defend? Every neighborhood is going to be different, so this discussion is going to be very different in every single neighborhood. But it's stuff you want to discuss with your trusted neighbors ahead of time. All right, I hope that was educational for people. We try not to talk too in depth about certain topics. We don't want to scare people away, but we want you to understand the basics of it, that situational awareness is the most important part of it. If you're not aware of what's going on, what you don't see is going to hurt you every single time. Our next coming up trainings next week, July 21st, Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. will be our continuing education series on leading volunteer teams. Following Wednesday, July 28th, is going to be our monthly two-way radio training. And if you go to calendar.ntp-la.org, you'll find all of our upcoming events and trainings there, and you can sign up. If you haven't taken the neighborhood team program or signed up for the neighborhood team program yet, please go to join.ntp-la.org, sign up. Our document package, which we send out to everybody with our step-by-step guides, is available at package.ntp-la.org or documents.ntp-la.org. Our upcoming trainings, again, calendar.ntp-la.org. And our previous trainings are available at videos.ntp-la.org.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick.
And I'd like to say I saw Patrick's this presentation in its original form, participated in it at that time. And this is a discussion that every neighborhood should be having in conjunction with doing your basic disaster plan. You got to think about your neighborhood security and awareness. And if you follow the guidelines that you see here, for the most part, a lot of the doomsday situations you hear about, all that kind of stuff, they won't happen. But it does take it takes everybody preparing before the event. It takes every neighbor connecting with each other. We talk about that a lot. In Los Angeles, we have an isolationist mentality, and that's got to change. That's got to change, and it will change that morning. If it's changing that morning, too late. And then everybody just, work together as a team. So fantastic. John?
Thanks, Chin. I want to hand it over to the folks here for any questions that you may have, any discussion you want to have right now with our experts, Chin, Patrick, the rest of the CERT team. This is a good time for that. Any hands or questions?
As I like to say, we were not that good, but we told you everything you wanted to know. Any question is valid. Come on up with them, and we can start the discussion. I see Deborah Manson over there. Deborah, come on up with your question.
Okay. Hi, everyone. And Patrick, I really appreciate this presentation. However, let me just say this. the discussion kept going back and forth between calmness or organization and disorganization. What I'm trying to say is this. If this earthquake is devastating and we are left without power and we are left without resources and we have to depend on everything for ourselves, and taking the food out of the refrigerator and the freezer and cooking it was an excellent idea. But I'm going to tell you, Patrick, you start barbecuing and cooking food and people 4 blocks over, because you're not going to do this on the first day, because on the first day, everybody's going to be in shock and they're going to try to get themselves together and think and calm down about what they're going to do. So towards the second day, the third day, the fourth day, that's when people will realize, okay, well, power's not coming back and we're on our own. Let's preserve our food and let's cook this food. Mm-hmm. This second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day is when these crazy people, I'm not going to say crazy. I take that back. I really apologize. When these desperate people will be out there, and they're not going to be the ones that are on your block and in your neighborhood because you've already discussed some kind of preparedness. These will be the ones that are going to come out there and they smell food. They are, and they're hungry. They're not just going to say hi. And and to paint it with a picture of calmness. I know you talked about the desperate people and the irrational people, but around that time, we are going to be dealing with desperate people that become irrational. Okay, that's my comment.
It's a good point. Maybe a block party in the middle of the street is not the best idea. Someone's backyard. You do have to know who your neighbors are. And at that point, hopefully you do, if it is 2 or 3 days in. And yeah, you might get people who are wandering through, but now's the time to identify them. And it's up to you if you're going to decide, hey, give this person a plate of food. Maybe they'll leave. Or maybe they're going to come back with their entire family. It is a decision that you have to make at the time. But the reality is that you're going to have to cook that food and people are going to smell it one way or another. So it might be better to do this at day 2, because then the people are not as desperate and you get the food cooked and then you can hopefully preserve it a little bit better. If you wait till day 4, you're going to have the desperate people already there. So you're absolutely correct about that.
Okay, and let me just say that I don't mean people that are just hungry and their children are hungry. I understand that. I'm talking about desperate people that are coming to take from you what you have, the people that you mentioned, that they're coming to take your things because they know they don't have anything and they see. So, being prepared and having things is like a double-edged sword. You have it, but then people find out you have it and they want to take it from you. So it's just, I don't know.
That's where if it's one person trying to take food from 15 people, it's not going to go well for them. And hopefully they're not desperate enough to think that is a good idea.
Okay.
But you never know. And you have to be prepared. You have to have people who are prepared to defend themselves and their neighbors. That is a given.
But excellent presentation.
And I do want to jump in on that as well and echo what Patrick just said. The one thing I've always said, and Deborah, I've known you a long time, I've said it in your neighborhood, which is located exactly, I'm kidding. The one thing I like to say to all of our neighborhoods is that if you have an organized presence in your community, an organized visual presence, like for instance, in your area of Leimert Park over there, let me tell you, if, like Patrick said, if I'm a guy with 2 or 3 of my buddies cruising through your neighborhood looking for people to steal from, and I see the folks over there in Leimert Park who are out there and showing their presence and showing their unity, I'm much less likely to want to go up against you guys than I will going over, let's say, to somewhere in Jefferson Park where I see nobody. I want to walk into an area where I get the least amount of resistance. It goes back to the old saying, do you feel lucky today? And I feel like, and I know that neighborhoods like the one you're in Leimert Park, with your presence, with also your reputation, this is key. Neighborhoods that have reputations for being united are going to be much less on the list of people we want to try to rip off than other places we don't hear about. Again, nothing we put out here is 100%. There's going to be issues out there, but we try to give you the best tools you can use. So, think about it, and don't, as long as you guys are united and standing together, your chances are better. So, and don't think too fatalistic about it, because chances are you'll get through it pretty nicely. So, all right now.
Thank you.
And I see some other questions there. Becky, I'm going to get you after I get Freddie. Freddie, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chan. Thank you, Chan. Thank you, Patrick. Wanted to just comment on what Ms. Deborah said. So, there's always going to be a situation like that when we are desperate, meaning after an earthquake or a major disaster. What I would suggest or maybe recommend is that you encourage some of the men on your block to be on the lookout for such a thing. If you notice something, grab some of the men on your block to say, hey, there's a guy that looks suspicious and he's doing this and he's doing that. And then also contact your team leader. Hopefully that's a CERT trained person who would have a definitive answer as to how to handle a situation like that, Ms. Deborah. That's what I would recommend. Patrick, man, you did a complete and thorough presentation today. You made me think, man, I am not prepared in some of the areas that you covered today. And I'm a CERT member. So go figure. I don't have the
prepared for everything.
Well, exactly. So I just don't have the capacity to store the amounts that were mentioned. I do have my CERT bag in my medical bag, and I'm prepared. And I am CPR, AED, and first aid trained. Have my card with me, but I'm trained as far as that goes, and I am a team leader for my block over here at, in Wellington, on Wellington Road and on West Adams, and so I'm prepared to lead in my area, and I'm certainly would be in recognition of what Ms. Deborah was saying about a knucklehead coming through trying to take things from people. We're not having that on this block. We're not having it. And I know several guys that I can corral to say, hey, here's a suspicious person, let's get him out of here. Because we're not going to be able to call the police, or even wait for them. So we will be prepared to handle that if that situation occurs, and most likely it may at some point. But thank you again, Patrick, for a thorough and complete presentation today, man. You really opened some eyes, and we need to get more of that information in our blocks, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, because not all, I can tell you right now, not every house on my block is prepared, okay? And so I'd like to do another pick up or have another opportunity to get more of our neighbors informed, especially here at West Adams on my block on Wellington Road. And we need to disseminate more of this crucial and critical information, because people are just, they're not prepared, they're not ready. If this earthquake happens tomorrow, it's going to be some problems, and it's going to be some injuries, and it's going to be some deaths, because people are not prepared. Sure. So there you have it. Thank you guys for this opportunity. Thank you, John Ma.
And one thing I want to throw in there is something Freddie mentioned. It's very, very important to reach out to those members of the community. Have a little bit of a patrol schedule made up, where your members get out for so many hours, watch the community, patrol the community, and again, that gives you that visibility you need. And there is nothing wrong with looking and saying, hey, there's somebody in the community that just doesn't look right. We need to know that. We need to know that. On my street, I'm going to tell you right now, you walk in my street, there's about 16 different sets of eyes who are watching, and we know who's just passing through, and we know who should be there. You need to know that. There's nothing wrong with those kinds of things. And that comes into play when you have a disaster, because you guys can lean on each other. Freddie, some great comments out there. Fantastic. I want to go to Becky. Becky, come on up with your question. And unmute yourself, Becky.
Hi, what a great team. I'm from another neighborhood. I got trained in a team in 1992 in CERT, and we were ready to go in 94 when we had our earthquake. Everybody in my neighborhood lost their chimneys. We were on liquefaction ground, and we had drilled and practiced and had our whole command post set up, and the commander that we had designated, he had all of his equipment was in his closet, and it all collapsed in his closet, and he couldn't get at anything, and we were kind of left on our own. That was a lesson learned. One of the things we had done, we had talked to the police department and said, if this happens, what can we do to help you guys? You're going to be stretched thin. What can you guys do? And they told us they were going to be driving around neighborhoods looking to see what was going on. And if there was a neighborhood that was organized with like a sawhorse with a sign on it that said, my street, believe it or not, was Stoner Avenue. Stoner Avenue is everybody's checked in on and it's okay. They said things like that would have helped them. So that was our next plan, was talking to the guys we already know that come to our neighborhoods. What do they want us to do? What will they expect? And one of the things was they want to know ahead of time if there are people that are trained, and if people have already been checked on, it saves them. It's a force multiplier because they don't have to spend their time checking us out because we've already done it. But boy, what a great team. I'm living now, I moved, I'm in another neighborhood, and I don't think there are many CERTs around here. And we're trying to get people interested, and I see a few people I invited here. So it's nice to see you guys.
Well, Becky, I know when you mentioned Stoner Avenue, you were once a Battalion 9 person.
Yes, I'm Battalion 4 now.
Well, welcome over to Battalion 4, and I believe your area team leaders, Mr. Jose Morataya, is hanging out over here someplace. Yes. And I'm glad you came to join us. And you know what? The ideas you gave us are really good. I want to repeat at least one or two things that Becky mentioned. One, get to know your local police department and get to know your local fire department, your local fire station in your area. And what she says is actually true. And what we've been working on with some of our mapping activities and different things that we've been doing is we're coming up with a map that we are sharing with our LAFD and probably our LAPD to give them an idea where there are active teams and organized blocks, because they will come through those areas and they will actually look to us for situational awareness of what's going on in the area. It helps them out. Like Becky said, it's what we're supposed to be, as a force multiplier. So if you folks haven't done that, get to know your local areas. I think that's a little bit less of a concern, because here at the neighborhood council, the senior lead officers are a part of things. You know who your folks are, but you can always get to know them better and ask them to do more stuff. Definitely get to know your local fire department as well. And those are some great ideas, Becky. I really like it. Get active with Battalion 4 over there. Jose is looking forward to it.
Or Joe in this case.
What
was that? Is Joe.
Yes, Joe Much. Yeah.
What the heck? Somebody changed my name.
Joe.
I didn't do that.
Hey, Joe.
Don't call me Joe.
We had the DWP come and tell us what to look for and what was in our neighborhood. So we had
Sure.
So we've talked to a few agencies and it's been very helpful.
Good. And keep talking to those agencies. You know, talk to as many of them as you can. Get the knowledge you can, because that's, you can just use more knowledge in your neighborhood. So keep it coming. Thank you, Beck.
Thank you.
And patiently waiting in his car is John Alvarez. John Alvarez, come up. It is now your turn, sir.
How's everybody doing? This is my first
doing
meeting with you
fine,
guys.
brother.
Becky, thank you for letting me know about this. Great information, you guys. I'm glad I tuned in. I'll definitely be tuning in for more of these. I'm listening to you guys talk about that, and the situational awareness conversation was great. And you know, being ready. I agree with, you know, not letting people know how prepared you are for defending yourself. But one thing, you know, utilize your veterans. Know who your veterans are around your neighborhood, man. These people are great with critical thinking and inside of emergency situations. Your veterans are going to be battlefield first aid. And they're also going to be more calm when dealing with some stuff like this. Veterans are going to be great, especially if the PD are going to be stretched in, and same with our fire department and our medical services. And Becky, incredible neighborhood triage and letting them know what's needed and what's been covered and where everybody's okay. You're right, freeing up resources. I love it. And also, you know, depending on where you live, you guys might have a lot of federal agents that live in your neighborhood. And initially, these boys won't get deployed until after. And so if you have a few feds, I don't know, if you live next to the airport, you can have a lot of customs boys, a lot of BP, and you know, there's other agencies that just live all around us. And those fed agents are really good at keeping their stuff on the low pro. So, you know, a couple of them, and include them in your plan. And these guys could be a great resource. And if they do get deployed for disaster relief or go somewhere where they're needed, it'll be probably after the first week and go where they're needed. But I don't know. It's great information, man. You guys get me excited. I'm going to go home and get ready for all this stuff. And thank you for putting this together.
I'm holding your feet to the fire on that, John. Holding your feet to the fire, my brother.
I'll be here. Join.ntp-la.org so you can get our emails.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Will do. Thank you.
And one thing I want to say, and John brought up a very, very good point of utilizing your veterans, those with federal experience, because they already have a knowledge of, one, disaster situations, as John said, but they also have a really strong familiarity with team organization. They bring that to the table big time. They're used to being part of teams. They're used to deploying as teams and different things like that. So, and I got to tell you, these things are actually part of your Map Your Neighborhood Ryland program, because it asks you for those different skills, like being carpenters and doctors and nurses and different things like that. You can, even though those may not be asked for exclusively, you can always pen that in military, and more than likely it's already there anyway, military experience. So those folks are perfect for those types of jobs. John, great point. Let's see, do we have any other questions, comments, or editorials, as I like to say?
I think now's a good time to talk about what's next. We're at session 6 here out of 6. So what we're doing is we're planning to schedule a drill. Well, we've scheduled a drill for next third Saturday. That
August 21st, sir.
August 21st. And what we're going to do, John is going to put together an email to send out to everyone who's signed up for these sessions and ask you to register for the drill. We're keeping the location of the drill a little close we're only going to send it out to people who've signed up. And what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate the staging area kit that we've mentioned a couple times. This kit is where everyone is going to go to. They're going to go to the staging area. The kit is there with radios, maps, clipboards, forms, all the documentation and everything, and medical resupply. So you have everything you need to get started in the first 3 hours of an incident. The radios are there. We expect you to bring your own radios, but we provide radios that are tested and a little bit more powerful so that we know we have good communications. If everybody brings a random radio, we have no idea what you're bringing. If you bring a cheap radio versus an expensive radio, they're going to perform differently. And we've seen that in past drills where the mix of radio communications was a massive liability. So we're providing the radios for the teams. When you get there, we're going to show you what's in the kit. We're going to show you how to set it up. We're going to show you how to sign people in, and we're going to show you how to deploy out damage assessment teams. And someone will be put in charge as the staging manager, and we'll walk you through the process of signing people in, setting up the team, what you say to them, the briefing, and then the teams will walk out and they'll walk predefined routes. They'll follow the map that's provided to them, and they're going to use the radios to communicate back to the staging area. It's a real simple drill, but it's a tutorial of what we expect to happen right after that earthquake. So you get the basis of, okay, do this, then this, then this, and then this. And I'd mentioned the document package, and I want to briefly go over that real fast. I can find my window. Where'd it go? And just share my screen. So if you go to documents.ntp-la.org, and it can take you to our website, and we have these documents here, and they're numbered from 0 to 7. And as the document package grows, as we add more documents, the numbers will increase. But these get updated regularly. And the one I want everybody to take a look at is document number 4 and 5. This is really the core of that response right after the earthquake. What do you do? The standard operating procedures. This is something that we want to tailor to each neighborhood. Each NTP will have one of these that's going to outline, or their neighborhood council or whatever. This is going to outline your area and the resources, what your area consists of, where your staging areas are, and everything. And this is what your team will get. This is also going to be in the staging area kit so that you have access to this when you get there. We want people to read and understand this stuff beforehand, so you're not learning the stuff right after the earthquake. And this goes over the different areas, who the teams are, what the roles of each of these teams are, and then a general step-by-step guide on procedures of what you're going to be doing. You know, check on your family first and make sure everyone's safe. You're going to turn on your radio, monitor your neighborhood channel. You're going to make sure you're wearing PPE, closed-toed shoes, long pants, gloves, a hard hat. If you're going to go outside, you want to make sure you have a reflective vest on. And then you're going to report it on the radio. Let your team know, hey, we've got no injuries, no damage, or I have someone who fell down the stairs, or a bookcase fell on them. And everyone who's listening in the neighborhood now starts to build an idea of what's going on, a situational awareness report. Okay, everyone's reporting no injuries, no damage. This is not a big deal. We don't even need to deploy, maybe walk outside, check everybody out, make sure everything's okay. You start hearing there's injuries, there's damage, everyone's chimney has collapsed. Now you know this was a big thing, and you're gonna go set up that neighborhood staging area and report that you're in. And this goes through the process of everything that you're gonna be doing. This has then been broken out, actually, and this actually breaks up and also talks about the fire station team leader and the battalion team leader and team. But step 5 takes that step-by-step guide in the SOP and breaks it out a little more extensively. So you're gonna see how there's a lot more to each of these points now than in the SOP. So I'd love it if everybody gets a chance to read this. John's going to send out I don't know if it's going to be an Eventbrite or something, so you can sign up for the drill. But we want everybody to have these guides read through so you understand the expectation of what you're going to be doing here. And this should be clean and easy to read. These guides are designed to be no more than 4 pages. This one's only 3 pages long. But we're not giving you a thesaurus. We're not giving you a lot of homework that it's going to take you hours and hours to do. These should be pretty quick reads through. But it's a great idea if everyone has had a chance to read through this and just gets the basic idea. And then if you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to us. Our email's here. You know how to reach Chin and myself. And there's other guides here as well. The 9 steps from Ready Your LA Neighbor, from your Map Your Neighborhood. That's here. There's a communications guide. And then over time, we're going to continually build this document package. But the ones we really want you to take a look at over the next week, look at document 4 and 5.
All right,
Patrick, thank you.
all right. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our six sessions. Wow, that was a lot of fun. Where to from here? I think you heard a little bit about where we want to take this. We've got the drill that's coming up on August 21st. You'll be hearing more about that. But our plans from here, we're going to stick very close with our West Adams Neighborhood Council here, because we got a great thing going here with John, especially. Big shout out to him for really moderating these things, and Lise for helping put them up. We're still going to be here. We're going to do a lot more in person, as is, in-person training and different things now that we have the opportunity. There are also going to be other modules like this one that pop up every now and then. And I just want to let you know that this part of neighborhood security, this is kind of part one of a multi-session series we'll be doing on this subject. The next one we'll do will be it's going to be calendared, and we will be doing it with our friends from the LAPD so we can get even more in depth with that. But until that time, let's start getting the process of getting our neighborhood team set up. For those of you here in West Adams, you've got some great neighborhood team members over here. You've got Lise, who is over there, who is your area team leader for one of the zones. Freddie, who's leading the zone farthest on the east. And one of our other members, Toby, who is also on the west. And a number of other great members here. So let's really try to put this thing together, and we'll stay in touch, and the journey will continue with you folks. John, I'm going to turn it back over to you for any other comments.
Yeah, thanks, Chin. I just want to do a quick roll call here. Maybe we can use the chat. Maybe you can go ahead and give us a thumbs up. But how many folks here are residents of West Adams or nearby? I know Freddie, of course. I know Lise as well. Yeah, Chin, I know you're close by. Are folks here in the 90016 area code, perhaps the 900, let me see, 9018 as well? Yeah, 19. Where's 19? 19's up north. Yeah, 18, 19, 16.
19 is my area. 19 covers my area of Mid-City, right next door to you.
Great, great, great. We're going to send out a survey to get some folks' area codes so we can begin to get a sense of whom to be bugging on a regular basis about our exciting events that are local, and then also where to refer you if you are a little bit further out. Kevin, awesome. Looks like you're a neighbor.
Yeah, I'm Crenshaw Manor, even though I'm 1-6 also.
Awesome. Looks like Andrea's throwing a thumbs up, and cool. All right, good to see that. And folks, I think for now, what we're going to do is give you back your last quarter of an hour on this Saturday. We'll be in touch over email. We'll be getting you the updates on the August 21st event, a brief survey with the location piece called out specifically. And just let us know if you have any questions, if you're in a specific part of town where you want some attention, just let us know. You know how to reach us.
Absolutely.
It's been a real pleasure. 6 classes, we did it. All through Zoom.
And big shout out to Patrick Botts Fords for putting on a great presentation. Continue to see his presentations. Get on the Join NTP, and you'll see every time he's talking and doing a training.
Excellent. And
Yeah,
Lise, thank you for
I'd
your
like to
work
get
on the ground
Patrick that
too.
at all my events.
Yeah. You'll have to fight us for him though.
Thank you,
You're our
Pat.
go-to guy.
Deborah has her hand up.
And there's one hand going up over there. Just before we get away, Deborah Manson, go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to take away time from everyone. Can I ask Chin, you and Patrick a question regarding these kits after everyone is gone? Because I just don't want to take, I don't mind asking it, but I don't want to take away time from everyone. Can I?
Always.
Okay.
Always. All right. All right. And so everybody else, it's potty time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Great job. Thanks.